Well, welcome to another episode of the Just Jamie podcast. And today I'm super excited because I am talking to another Instagram friend of mine for our running series. JT is joining me, and we're going to talk about all matter of things to do with running. But if you're not a runner, I hope you stick around because not only is it going to be a super interesting conversation about, fitness and discipline, but we are also going to be talking about the fact that September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I think that is a message everyone needs to hear, regardless of whether you're a runner or not. So, welcome, JT.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
No, I'm
Thanks.
so excited, and I know you're traveling for work, and you probably have a full plate. So I'm very thankful that you made the time. But maybe for the people who aren't following you on Instagram, kind of let us know who you are and what you do.
Sure, I am an Army chaplain. Been doing this about 13 and a half years. And so that's where my name comes from, the running chap. A lot of people just think I'm British, but I'm American. So that is short for chaplain. But I've been running since I was about 8 years old. And I ran cross country and track in high school. I had a scholarship to run cross country in college, but decided I needed a job
Okay.
and went that route instead. So I've been running my whole life, 30 plus years or so. I love it. It's a great sport. And my wife runs as
Mhm.
well. So running is in the family. I have two kids, 18-year-old daughter and an almost 14-year-old son. They like sports, but not running
Okay.
at all. But running is just an important part of my life in terms of not only the sport, loving it, but we're talking about mental
Mhm.
health as we talk about suicide prevention and intervention. And it's something that God has used as my therapy over the many years.
Well, that's why it's almost like you kind of read my notes in advance because you're, a man of faith, you're a husband, you're a father, and you're a veteran. And I wanted to start with the National Suicide Prevention Month because, toward the end of videos, people could kind of, I think we're really interesting and they won't kind of zone out. But I wanted to kind of start with that. How has running, and I was going to ask you how long you had been a runner, but how has running sort of helped you with any sort of, issues from being a veteran, or and how have you maybe encouraged others that might be struggling?
Sure. So, at a very early age, I recognized that there was a connection between not only the physical and exercise and running and things like that, but also the mental. And I'm one of those people that has gotten the runner's
Okay.
high. I know a lot of runners will say, yes, I have, but a lot of non runners will say, I've never
Mhm.
experienced that. And it's not something that I would say comes every single day, but I will say every time I get done with a run, I feel great, not only physically, but just mentally. And I think it's one of those things that over the years I've recognized that it's just about getting outside, getting that fresh air, clearing my mind, being able to think, and sometimes doing it alone, sometimes with individuals, but just being able to go push myself to do something and then slow everything down in our chaotic world. So as a veteran, we experience a lot of things
Can't
and
even
some
imagine.
difficult things at times. And I caught wind very early on in my years as a chaplain about this number 22. So there's 22 veterans a
Mm.
day that supposedly take their own lives, and I believe that was the statistic at one time, and it's varied year by year. But our men and women are
Yeah.
struggling to come home after combat, and it's important that we encourage them to get the tools that they need to take care of their mental health. Now, running is obviously one of those ways that helps, but there are many
Sure.
resources out there as well. And so I like to encourage people to get out there and run. And I try to lift weights
Mhm.
too. I Running's my first love, but weights I know are important, strength building. And honestly, I don't get as excited about getting up and lifting weights, but I will say that is one heck of a stress
Yeah.
reliever. Every time I finish with a good strength session, I feel like I can accomplish anything. So it's a confidence boost.
Right.
It feeds that adrenaline, that dopamine in a good and healthy way.
Now, do you feel, because when I think of a veteran, I think of somebody who's in peak shape, right? And that they do have physical activity in their lives. Do you find the people that are struggling have maybe walked away from physical activity when they got home, or they maybe they haven't made that connection between the mental and the physical? Do they look at you like you're crazy when you sort of want to talk to them about getting out and running? Or they're like, oh, that was what I did to train for the army, or how do you sort of fit that in?
Yeah, I do think in some instances they've walked away from their training regiment. Now, there's some of it that you can't get away from as a soldier because you're required to, but there's a difference between sort of that required training and just getting out and doing it to, one, getting the shape, but also just help clear your
Right.
mind. And so I say there's a difference between recreational fitness and forced
And of
fitness.
course, you said it
And
better than me. But do you find that they haven't realized that, where they see it only as sort of the work, and then once you get them maybe to see it in that different way where it does clear your mind, it's no longer punishment, right? Or it's no longer forced.
yeah, I do see that they don't see that
Hmm.
sometimes, and it's funny how many conversations I'll have with soldiers. As a chaplain, I have a lot of them, and I see a lot of people when they're struggling. And you talk about developing healthy habits to help you cope and deal with stress and anxiety and all the above. And oftentimes, you're dealing with an individual who's pursuing a lot of unhealthy habits to sort of just mask that struggle, and to the point sometimes where it's detrimental. And it's about helping them find the healthy habits that they have. And some people love to run, some people love to lift, some people love to get out and hike. All those things are good things, and it's helping them realize, hey, this is something you enjoy doing. Get out and do it more, make an effort. But I do find when you're struggling mentally, sometimes the hardest part is getting started, and it's just encouraging them to get out the
Do you
door.
feel like they talk about it sort of amongst themselves? Do they, we found each other on Instagram, right? And the running community on social is so, supportive of one another, right? You get new shoes, people are jazzed, and you think you had a kind of a
Yeah.
crappy run, and somebody in your mentions is like, no, that's awesome. You were out there. So sometimes that pick me up. Do you feel like they're maybe not in a community, or kind of leaning on others? And they kind of, I know my dad was a Marine, and certainly did not really reach out for help, and sort of he had to be the strong silent type. And I think it would have benefited from kind of chats like this. And that's why I was excited you wanted, you said you'd come on the show. Do you feel like, they don't find that community?
I definitely think that's true. Community is huge. We can't do life
Yeah.
alone. And I think we were designed, built for community. And the more that you can encourage that, they don't necessarily have to go run in
Sure.
groups or lift in groups, but to be able to have that encouragement, that accountability, that even that person to stop and talk to, that's
Hmm.
huge. And it's important that if they're not linking their workouts in to a group per se, at least find that support in a different
Right.
way, whether it be a club or a church or whoever, but finding that support and making sure that you have places that you can go and just talk stuff through and even find commonalities with
Mhm.
individuals who are going through the same thing. That all ties into having good mental fitness too.
Now, that number is jarring. And do you think it is because people are too proud to ask for help, or they feel like, I've been in combat, how could I not handle being home? Like, where what do you think causes, the number? I know it's kind of a insane question to ask, but it literally breaks my heart that people who have fought so we're free enough to have a conversation, among friends that are strangers, and have this connection through something like Instagram, and they have given us all these freedoms, and then I just feel like my heart breaks for them.
Yeah, I do think there is a combination of there's that idea of being too proud. And especially I look at like my grandfather and father who both served, but my grandfather in Vietnam, I think there was definitely that sort of
Mhm.
stigma. And even when I first came in, seeing that stigma amongst especially the older soldiers, I think the army and the military in general has done a pretty good job of trying to rid out that
Good.
stigma and emphasizing the importance of mental health and spiritual health and things like that, looking to get out and be familiar with resources and using those resources. I think now it's some of it is pride, but some of it is just maybe not being aware of how things are really impacting
Right.
you. And I
That's
can
true.
say personally that when I came back from my first deployment, I thought everything's great. I'm back. I'm with my family.
Hmm.
We went to Disney World. And about a month after all of that, I just started feeling down and I didn't even know why. And so it was sort of like it snuck up on me without me
Yeah.
realizing it. And I think as we understand with our bodies that we need to do things sort of preemptively and be proactive and not reactive, take your vitamins, eat
Hmm.
healthy, all these good things that we know we're supposed to do physically, mentally, we have to do those
Right.
things as well. And I think folks just sometimes don't understand and it sneaks up on them. And then the other thing is they're aware of the resources, but they're scared of how to get started and maybe just sort of don't know exactly how to get themselves started and to utilize the resources that are out there. So I think that's part of why it's so high is because there's just a combination of many factors, and but on top of that, we live in chaotic
Yeah.
times. It's definitely a
Do you
struggle.
think survivor's guilt is an issue where, you said you came home, right? You're with your family, your wife and your kids, and you're at Disney, and you're living the American dream. And there are so many folks that don't make it home. Do you think it's the fact that why, what's wrong with me? I can't snap out of it. I'm home. Why should I feel down? I made it. I'm one of the, lucky ones, really.
Yeah, it's definitely part of it. That guilt weighs heavily on you, and if you continue to just live in regret, live in the past, it can be hard to snap out of, and that's why finding resources and a support group is so huge because we can't do it by ourselves. I don't think any of us have the strength to be able to overcome some of the demons and struggles that we face. And I believe obviously it starts one with the Lord, but He provides these resources to us that um, can give us these beautiful ways to process things and to truly grieve and to get stronger.
And so you mentioned your wife. Were you able to lean on her? Are there supports for, and we will link all these resources, by the way, in the show notes,
Sure.
but is there support for the spouses? Because I'm assuming they're not psychology majors. They love you so much, they want to support you, but do they have the tools to handle it? How does it work with the spouses?
Yes, I think it's important for each service member to talk to their spouse, and that can be hard
Mhm.
sometimes because you go through things that you feel like your spouse can't understand at times, and so the big thing is just encouraging your spouse just to be a listening ear,
Mhm.
just to be there, but to also be aware of the resources themselves. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's seeking those supports that are out there, and maybe encouraging a spouse to go with you if need
Mhm.
be, not necessarily for marital counseling,
Sure.
but just to process things together from the service member who went and the family member who stayed, because it is a toll on the family
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and then I would imagine they probably feel they have all this responsibility while you're gone and deployed, and they're probably feeling stressed, and they don't want to make your return home any more stressful. So then they've got extra on them. So I would imagine that's
Yes.
kind of a big part of it. Now, um, as a runner, as a chaplain, like, what is a typical day for a chaplain? I'm fascinated. They know you're coming to a base. Do you give a keynote, or is it just, hey, I'm here and doors open type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in fact, I asked that question when I first came into the Army as a chaplain. I asked a seasoned chaplain, what does a typical day look like? And they couldn't give me a straight answer. And my first thought was, are they trying to hide something? But then I realized every day is so radically different.
Right.
And so, as a chaplain, you're really a caregiver. We're in the military to provide for religious support and freedom that the Constitution allows for service members and families, and we see to it that everybody gets to worship freely. And we do what's called perform or provide. So we provide in terms of our faith
Hmm.
background. So I can't do things that are outside of my
Sure.
faith background. And in that instance, I would perform. So that's our primary duty. But with that, we're sort of natural counselors. I really say that the chaplains are like the pastor of their unit. And so, as a pastor, as a counselor, you're there to take care of soldiers. The old adage is lead soldiers to God and brings, you know, bring God to soldiers and lead soldiers to God. So, we do that through a variety of ways. We also provide advisement for commanders
Okay.
who make decisions, and some of them based on, you know, religious outcomes, especially when we have
Yeah.
conflicts with enemies of different who have different faiths and backgrounds. We have to keep all these things into account. So we do a lot of advisement as well, but the advisement goes deeper than that. We advise command on issues of morale and how we feel soldiers are being treated, and how different dynamics are at play in the workforce, in the unit.
Hmm.
But a typical day usually looks like preparing for whatever religious service that we have for that particular week, and whatever our role looks like on that. But also getting out and seeing soldiers, um, counseling soldiers, which we do typically often, connecting with other resources, which the military has a lot of
Okay.
them, and also looking at ways that we can be utilized as a teacher within our specific unit. So we teach on things like ethics and suicide prevention and moral leadership. There's a slew of ways that our command can use us to impact the formation, and specifically help our formation when it comes to spiritual fitness, which really is, obviously part of it is religious, but also is connected to the mental fitness as
Yeah, I
well.
mean, it seems like such an enormous scope. And so, would you ever deployed as a chaplain, or your active duty still, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I am active
Okay.
duty, and chaplains do deploy. We go where the soldiers
Right.
are. So I've gone twice
Okay.
to Afghanistan,
Ooh.
and been with soldiers over there, right in the midst of the fight. And so it's one of those things that as an Army chaplain is kind of neat that we do get to go where the soldiers go, but also it does carry obviously some danger in it too.
So, did you go to seminary? What was your education background, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got an undergrad in communications, and thought I was going to go into some type of broadcasting, and then God called me into ministry. So I did go to seminary down in Texas, Fort Worth,
Okay.
Texas, to Southwest Baptist Theological Seminary, Southwestern. And after that, I was a youth pastor for about 7
Okay.
years, and God used a lot of the different events in my life to eventually call me into the Army as a chaplain. And when I decided that I was going to pursue chaplaincy, I talked to another youth pastor who had also made the jump into Army chaplaincy. And I said, "Tell me about it. What's it like?" And he said, "Well, it's basically like youth ministry, except now they carry weapons." And he was right on the
Okay.
money. That is very true. It's very similar. You're dealing with a lot of 18 to 24-year olds.
Hmm.
There are older soldiers too, but your primary base is 18 to 24-year olds
Yeah.
making big life decisions, fighting for our country, trying to figure it all out, and
And away
they
from home,
need
right?
somebody to help guide them, and
Yeah.
away from home.
Yeah, and it
Absolutely.
could be the first time for so many of them away from home for basic training, and all of a sudden you went from, basically high school and knowing everyone to you could possibly, be in a war zone. And like I would imagine you
That's
are
right.
that father figure, you are the tie to everything that might keep them sane. So that's an enormous amount of
Yes,
pressure. So I can only imagine how much running like allows you to sort of um get a little reprieve from that. And you're training
it
for
is.
Chicago, right? You're
I am. I'm training for Chicago next
now
month.
will
Excited
the
about it.
guys that are you're the chaplain for, will they be all in on your training? Will they be rooting you on, or is it a private goal that unless they follow you on Instagram, you don't really talk about?
I do talk about it at work. I don't try to overwhelm people with my running because I know running sometimes is a passion for some people and
Right.
sometimes it's not. But there's a office next door to mine of several people that I talk to frequently, and this past spring, a lot of them were training for and running the Nashville half
Okay.
marathon, rock and roll half marathon. And so I was going to do another race in a different part of the state, and I decided, hey, I'm going to jump in on this Nashville half marathon as well. So I changed over to do the Nashville half, and that was cool because we got to talk about our training, and it was fun being able to encourage them. Some of them were that was the longest distance they had ever run, and
Okay.
so just being able to see some of them push for these goals and achieve these
Hmm.
goals was really, really cool. And I do get, in addition to people asking me about my faith and asking me biblical questions, I do have people that come in and ask me about running shoes and ask me about running tips and things like that. So I try to encourage them as much as I can. But I do have several that are following my journey to
Right.
Chicago and know I'm going to be doing it next month.
That's awesome. Because I know you're affiliated with Brooks, and I'm a Brooks girl myself. I'm a
Yes.
ghost. If they ever change the Brooks ghost, I don't know what will become of me, but you can just mention that to them. But how did you get affiliated with them? How did that work?
Yeah, so I've been a Brooks runner or fan for about 12 years.
Uh-huh.
And when I first started a running Instagram a few years ago, I noticed that there were these runners out there that were getting these packages from Brooks and representing them with their clothing. And I've been very loyal to Brooks for 12 plus years and a huge fan. I love the Ghost as well. And I saw that in the fall every year they do an application process
Oh,
for runners that are also influencers to apply to be a part of what's now called the Brooks Running Collective.
okay.
And it's a group of about I think about 200 runners from the US and Canada and other parts of the world that are all different backgrounds, shapes and sizes, experience levels that just love the sport of running. And Brooks will not only send you cool gear, but encourage you to to get out and meet other Brooks
Hmm.
runners. They have groups that meet all over the place. They'll also have a gathering once a year where you can go run with the rest of the Brooks team, and
That's
that's
so
really cool.
cool.
I got to do that in Chicago last year, but it's just a way to be able to represent a brand that you already love
Hmm.
and get to see all the things that they have to offer and get to try out all their cool different shoes.
See, I love that because it's a brand I liked anyway. And when I find out that, I'm a marketing nerd, so I love that part of it, but also the idea that I'm always a little heartbroken that if it's either a musician that you like or a brand that you like and you find out they're not nice guys in real life, I always like to find out, oh, they are a good company. So I think that ambassadorship really means a lot. People can say they pour into the community, but saying it and doing it are not the same thing.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, when you're training, and I know you just had a 20 miler this past weekend, how do you balance the whole husband, dad, chaplain, and still get in the 20 miles so you can actually finish Chicago?
That's a great question. I get up really early. That's the
Yeah.
big thing. I always joke my daughter is now a college freshman. When I was training for a marathon a couple of years ago, I got up and ran 20 miles. I made breakfast, already had 2 cups of coffee, and I still had to go wake her up.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy,
she
right?
wakes up. She's like, "What time is it?" And it was about 10 o'clock, and I jokingly had to tell her I've already run 20 miles, cooked breakfast, and had a couple of
Right.
cups of coffee. So
Do they think you're
it's
just
just
like
getting up early.
yeah, do they think you're just like a pod person that you're or they're just like, "Oh, that's dad. He just does it."
Yeah, they think I'm crazy. I do try to make sure that I get my running in while they're sleeping for the
Right.
most part because I don't want to miss out on anything. My
Sure.
son is an athlete and is doing a sport every season, and I want to try to
Okay.
get to his games. So I never,
Yeah.
choose running over one of his games. I make sure that I'm there, and early morning just seems
Oh,
to work. And if I have to miss it for some reason, It's just about finding a little bit of white space within the calendar of the week and trying to
Right.
get it in
Right.
whenever I can.
Is your wife training for a run at the same time? Like, my husband is way faster than I am, so when he does his pokey runs, we'll run together. But when he's really trying, when he was training for the Ironman, I'm slower than anybody, so I can't really help him train. But do you guys run together, or you kind of have separate agendas with running?
Most of the time separate. We do get up every morning and go to the same place to run.
Okay.
Because where we live, we have this cul-de-sac that you can't really run in next to a main road. So we usually have to go to
Okay.
a park or another neighborhood to run. And so we have a few locations that we go to, and we'll usually go together. But it's funny because I ask her to run with me all the time.
Okay.
She actually runs about as fast as I do, quite honestly,
Okay. Wow.
except when I'm doing like a tempo
Okay.
a run where I am doing some sprinting. She won't run that fast, but she is a 3 to 5 mile a day runner. Doesn't want to do more
Wow.
than that. Doesn't really
Right.
want to do less than that. And so she doesn't like my erratic. One day I'm doing 5 miles easy. The next day
Right.
I'm doing tempo. The next day I'm doing 8. And she wants to stick with her 3 to 5. So most of the time she just says, "Go do your thing.
Right.
I'll do mine." I think just getting up is big enough encouragement for her to get up and go as well, and so that's what she likes.
Well, and I like the fact that, because we'll do the same thing. We'll get up and go. When he was doing like a 50-mile bike ride, I'm like, I'm going to run 5 miles. We'll meet up here, and we know where we parked, and then you're sort of together, but not. And I'm not
Yeah.
crowding him or guilting him into skipping part of his training, but also I'm still out and about. But was she a runner when you all met, or did she come to running? Did you make her a disciple of running?
Well, it's funny, we went to high school together, and she
Okay.
was a cheerleader, but one year she didn't cheer and she ran cross country. So I think
Okay.
that ignited her love of running, or starting to love running, and then she got
Gotcha.
into it shortly after we got married, and she'll do 5Ks.
Okay.
I did get her to do one half marathon, but
Okay.
I have not got her past that yet. So we'll see.
Okay. There's time. But so tell us
Yeah.
about the coffee mugs. Anybody who follows you on Instagram, you have, was it over 200 coffee mugs? Is that it?
I think about 60 to 70,
Oh,
probably.
oh, okay. I thought it was more. Okay. That's still a lot of mugs. So you've got a
Yes.
lot of cabinet space. So is it just every time you travel for work or a race, you buy one?
I do that. So we collected magnets for a long time, and then my
Okay.
wife didn't want to put magnets on our fridge anymore
Gotcha.
because she thought it looked tacky. So we took them all down, and so now when we travel anywhere, that's what it is, a mug.
Okay.
And we've gotten to the point where we've said every time we get a new one, we have to get rid of one, which I
Gotcha.
have the
Oh,
hardest
wow.
time getting rid of
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
But
that's got to be hard. Yeah.
I just think they're a cool conversation
Mhm.
piece. Anytime you have people over and you have a mug that says, like, I have one that says Kuwait, and I got it when I was flying through Kuwait one time. And, you just don't see that very often. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I need like a coaster, a mug, and a sweatshirt from everywhere I go, because like God forbid I
Yes.
don't get a gray sweatshirt from somewhere. So I'm right there. I'm right there with you. But so when you are traveling to Chicago, and like you've got your gear, like when you get there, are you getting there the day before? Are you worried about sort of sleep and rest and hydration? You'll bring all that with you, and you've booked everything. And are there any nerves when it's a destination race?
There is a little bit, especially with the sleeping.
Yeah.
Um, I usually sleep really good, but the night before a race, you're thinking about the race, and especially a
Mhm.
marathon, because a marathon is tough. It's a tough
Mhm.
race.
Yes.
I don't get as nervous about 10Ks, and not even really halves as much, but when you run a marathon, you just know it's going to be painful
Yeah.
those last several miles. And so it's just thinking through that pain that you're going to endure the next day. And of course, hotel beds are never as comfortable as your bed at home. And so
Yep.
combine that with the nerves, it does get a little difficult to get a good night's rest. But everything else still tracks just like a regular race. You get all your gear, you bring it all, you hydrate, you eat well.
Do you
But
bring all the
sleep
things with
sometimes can be
you?
the
Like,
challenge.
Do you bring everything with you, like, a certain hydration powder you like, or your goos or whatever, just so you don't rely on a local store?
I do. Yeah, I usually bring
Okay.
everything with me so that I have it ready to go.
Yeah, and you fly out the next day, because I would think I've done a bunch of half marathons, and the day after is, it's a little hard. Going down
Yeah,
the stairs, or I drop something, I'm like, I'll get it later. I'll just leave it on the floor till I feel better. But like getting on a plane the next day, does that make recovery like that's difficult?
it can be a challenge, whether it's a plane or a car, getting in and just having to, sit for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
It seems like you're fine while you're sitting, but then once you get up, that it can be a challenge. So
yeah.
usually I do stay the night after the marathon.
Oh, smart. Okay,
Usually the sleep is much better, and then the next day we'll leave, and that seems to help a little bit.
okay.
But regardless, it's going to be a little painful.
Now, are you meeting up with fellow Brooks kind of people while you're there, or is this kind of a solo thing, or?
Well, I'll definitely see some people from the Brooks Running Collective
Okay,
there. I know several of them that are going to be doing the marathon as well. I'm also running with Team World Vision, and World Vision is about providing life-changing clean water for children and communities around the world.
okay,
And I'm helping raise money for them. And so I'm going to be wearing a World Vision jersey, and we
yeah,
have a World Vision dinner that's going to carb us up the night
okay,
before, and I'll get to meet some folks from their team, and then one of my good friends, who's also an Instagram influencer as well, running for clean water. His name's Jim. He'll be a guy that I meet up with every time we do a race together or in the same city. We like to meet up. So yeah, it'll be fun to
great.
meet up with some friends.
Okay, so let's talk about, if you're not a runner and you stuck with us on this conversation, do you have any tips, tricks, hacks that, if somebody thought about it, because it might be something great for their fitness or just getting outside? What are the things that, because it took me a long time to consider myself a runner, because I wasn't a marathoner. I hadn't done a half yet. I was slow. I gave all these things, but I'm like, no, I'm a runner. But it took me a while to feel like I fit in that club. So if people want to get started, what say you?
Yeah, I would say definitely get yourself a good pair of running shoes, because that does make a huge
Yes.
difference. You can avoid a lot of unnecessary injuries just by
Hmm.
having a good set of running shoes. Don't worry if you've not got all the designer running clothes or anything like
Right.
that. Those things are great, and they'll come later. But make sure you have good running shoes. And then it's like you said, don't feel like you're not a runner if you're not at marathon level or half
Right.
marathon level. If you get out and you just run a quarter of a mile and have to
Hmm.
walk most of it, that's okay. That's great. It's just getting out and
Yep.
moving. And I would say the biggest challenge sometimes is just getting started. And
Yeah.
just to remember that if you can just get started, then you can get out and do something, and you're still doing more than a lot of
Hmm.
people do. And that's huge, and just be encouraged by that. I think it's all about perspective and just being encouraged by doing a little bit more each day. And I think if you can just look to get a little bit better, it doesn't have to be faster, but just do a little bit more each day, push yourself a little bit more each day, you'll be surprised at how quick you can begin to get out and do 2 3 mile runs, and very soon probably a lot more than that.
And I
And
always
that's been
think
the
if
neat thing
people,
about social media, is seeing
mhm,
people that
mhm,
started as influencers running only like 3 miles a day, and then challenging themselves, and now seeing them run marathons, and it
yep.
happens quick.
And I always think if you can afford it, because sometimes races are expensive to sign up for, but even if there's a local 5K, there's almost nothing more inspiring than any race I've ever done. And I had to move all our medals to make room in the gym for something. I was like, I forgot we did all these races. There's generally someone who has a disability, right? Or they're running with a full rucksack supporting military or wounded warriors, or there's
Yeah.
someone who has a prosthetic leg, or there's someone pushing a child that has special needs in a wheelchair. And if you can go, even if it's your first time you ever laced up sneakers, you will stop feeling sorry for yourself if you see that, because you're like, oh, I have it so good, right? Like, am
Right.
able-bodied to do all the complaining, and I can do all the stretches, where the person with the prosthetic, they've overcome way more. So I always feel like it's one of those things, like, if you can sign up, if you can afford one of them, just watch. Nobody's judging your weight, your shape, your size, anything, and just look around, and the music and everyone's so encouraging. You'll be hooked, I think, from
That's
that.
right. I completely agree. And the community is just so encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's neat is, yeah, people are competitive, but I think for the most part, you'll find runners just want to encourage other runners.
Hmm.
And that I think is a beautiful thing.
And you get a banana at the end of the race. So it's like,
That's
I
right.
mean, you can't go wrong.
Do it all
But
for a free
before,
banana, a free water. Yeah.
I know, when I signed up for the half marathon, it's like $150, and I was like, they're like, "Would you like a banana?" I was like, "My $150 banana, I would love it." It's the most
I
expensive
did it.
banana you have.
I did a 10-mile race this summer in a place called Bell Buckle, Tennessee, and they give you a free RC cola and moon pie at the very end, which is one of the most unique things I've gotten after a
Honestly,
run.
I mean, that's a
And
memory right there. I mean, worth the
oh
price
yeah,
of admission. So
yeah.
before I let you go, we are going to link everything, but is there sort of regarding safety, I'm talking to kind of a bunch of different runners, and everybody comes at running. You've been running longer than the other folks I've talked to, but I want to talk about safety for everything. So talking to a lot of guys, I'm not one. Women's concerns are slightly different. Not that anything couldn't happen to a man, but is there anything that you either tell your running groups or people who are starting, safety concerns, any tips, tricks, things like that, that could kind of help, if they don't live in a spot that they can just find somewhere safe to run?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first and foremost, finding parks, especially parks where there are, a lot of people and sidewalks and things like that, just in terms of traffic safety, that's huge. Running facing traffic, if you can't
Hmm.
find sidewalks so you can see what's coming, that's always an important thing. And if you're running in the early morning or at night, making sure that you have some type of reflective light or belt on just so you can be seen. And then just being aware of your surroundings. I love music. I love podcasts while I'm running, but I also make sure that I don't turn it up too loud so I can hear what's going
Yeah.
on around me. And then just try to be observant. Obviously, you don't have to be overly paranoid, but just
Yep.
be vigilant of the things that are around you. And there's been times where I've run somewhere and I've seen somebody that, I don't know what they're up to, but just didn't get a good vibe about it
Right.
and decided to alter my route a little bit, and that's
Hmm.
okay. um, you know, you're never guaranteed that all those things are going to keep you out of
Right.
trouble,
Hmm.
but you can definitely help set yourself up for success and do what you can to keep yourself safe. And that is important because a lot of drivers, especially, aren't always the most courteous to runners.
Nope.
And, as I do, there are a lot of people that still text while they drive. And so you
Yep.
have to kind of run defensively.
Yeah, if I see the top of their head, then they're not looking at the windshield. And I see
Right.
most of the time in our neighborhood, people are running the proper way, but every now and again, somebody's running with their back to oncoming traffic. And, bikes a lot of times don't obey the laws. And it drives me crazy because you can't assume that. I always say, assume they don't see you, right? So if somebody's
Yep.
kind of get out of the way. But I agree that you might have a set route in your mind, but I think giving yourself permission to, if you don't trust your gut, you might live to regret it or not live to regret it. And again, don't want to be overly paranoid, but I think kind of talking about safety, just have it in the back of your mind. Park somewhere safe, and making sure you have a little nutrition so you don't get lightheaded. If you're out on a 20-mile, do 10 out and 10 back, because sometimes you're just going and then you're so far away from where you park.
Sorry.
Little things like that I think can help, especially if you're a new runner. And thank goodness we're in the age of podcasts now. You can listen to, I use Nike Run Club, and there are these world renowned people in my ear kind of giving me the count in and count out of things, so I don't have to have my head down. And you can learn all sorts of things, but I think people shouldn't just sort of have blinders on and run with loud
Right.
music just because it's their off time. So no, I
And I
think
would
that was.
say the other thing too, a lot of watches like Garmin has a
Mhm.
feature where you can actually put an emergency contact, connect them
Oh,
to your watch to
smart.
where if you do fall or something and the watch can pick that up, it will contact that person.
Oh, that's
And
excellent. I didn't know
so
that.
it's funny, there's been a few times where I've stopped when I'm doing sprints and I'll
Yeah.
stop suddenly and it's like my heart rate gets really high and the watch will pick that up and it will actually say that it's going to contact my wife if I don't turn it off within
Oh,
like
oh,
10
oh.
seconds. So there's been a few times where I've had close calls like that. But it is
Yes.
a great feature.
Yeah, because Andy's watch is a million years old, and I don't think it has that feature. But that's incredible because he's had a
Yeah.
couple health issues. That I'm kind of a wreck, but we have a rule like he'll let me know when he starts his run, and then when he's done, hey, I'm walking back. Just because, like he lost consciousness after an Ironman, and that's something I don't want to have to worry about, but I also don't want to kind of, squash his joy. But I think having that option on the watch is incredible. And what a nice safety feature. And again, you always hope you don't need any of these things, right? You hope
Right.
that this is just a feature they've put in that you never use. But that's interesting that you stop short and they're like, are you all right?
Yep. Yeah,
So
it's nice to have.
yeah, for sure. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time, and I'm fascinated with what you do, and I thank you for not only your service but also bringing awareness to certainly the freshwater, but also um, the fact that suicide really affects so many people, but especially our veterans. It's especially heartbreaking because they do literally everything to make sure that I can sit and chit chat at my house. So it's really incredible. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And if
Of
anybody
course.
wants to join 22 push-ups a day just to get awareness out there, we're doing that the entire month of September
Mhm.
for Suicide Prevention Month.
Yep, and this will come out in a couple of weeks, but I am going to be posting about it sooner than that, so people can get in on it sooner.
Yeah.
And then you've sent me a bunch of links, and I did a lot of research about, sadly, all the statistics, and we'll put it in the notes so people can privately read it and all the 800 numbers and the text if you need help. And what I thought was interesting when I started doing the research, Google asked me, "Are you in trouble? Do you need to talk?" Just because I was researching it, which I thought was incredible. Because if I
Yeah.
was struggling, maybe it was that moment it could have reached someone. So, I was very impressed with that. So, and impressed with you. And thank you very much. And it's kind of nice to finally meet you because we've followed each other forever.
Yeah. Yeah. This was great. Thanks for
um,
asking me to be a part.
of course, no,
Always glad to be able to talk about these things.
yeah, you were one of the first person I'm like, must text him and see if he'll do this. So, thank you so much and have a great
I'm
night.
honored.
Travel home safely. Okay.
All right. Thank you for having
Take
me. I
care. Of
appreciate it.
course. Bye.
Bye.